I guess that I define truth as unfiltered experience. I don't know that I haven't really thought about defining it before. I do know though, that opportunities that showcase a wide variety of experiential truth are important because we live a very narrow existence. I happen to live in the middle of Michigan, which is a pretty narrow existence right now. And I think that I'm an avid people watcher. I tell my students to not be upset if they catch me staring at them. I'm just really curious. But I think that the more we learn about other people's experiences, the more able we are to empathize with situations that are outside of our own lives.
I agree. For me, truth is relative. I mean, it's everybody has his or her own or their own truth, and what they believe becomes their truth, and so I actually prefer when people feel safe to share their truth, so that we do have an opportunity to learn. And because we don't all think the same way, we don't all feel the same way, we don't all believe the same way. I mean, we all have different relationships to absolutely everything. And so it's important that we remain open to receiving other people's truth, so we do learn. And particularly in the arts, to close yourself off from the truths of others is to deny yourself very important information that can help you to better understand other people. Even if you don't like their truth, or it's in opposition to your own, it's important to accept that that is their truth. And it's not a bad idea to imagine how it is that they could conceivably come to that truth. So I do think that having situations like this, where it is voices of truth, it really provides an opportunity for people to learn about other people's truths.
I've been writing for myself for a really long time. I had no idea I was going to write this play. I actually wrote it when I was in grad school a couple of years ago. And I don't have any other plays that have ever been staged, because that's not my primary thing. I sort of write to entertain myself. And I write about my own life and experiences, and not necessarily for other people. But when I was starting grad school, my advisor asked me, what I was doing, what I was working on that we could turn into a project or whatever. And I told him about Miriam and about the stories that she'd shared with me. And he said, okay, so you're going to write that play. What else can we do? Like, it was nothing. He was just like, okay, so write that play. And we moved on. And so now I had a deadline. She and I had been talking for 2 years at that point, 2.5 years. And I had hours and hours of recordings, and now I had to do it. So I've been writing a long time, but not for anyone else. This is the first show other people are going to see and hear.
Oh boy. I didn't really. Do you know, it's like the first play that I saw that the first play that I saw that ultimately proved to be life-saving for me was a play called Kennedy's Children by Robert Patrick. It was seeing that show. I was 14, to seeing that show, and my parents had no clue what the subject of the show was, or they never would have let me usher to see it. But it was like I saw that show, and it made me aware that there was a place for me in this world. So it saved my life. I didn't, but interestingly enough, it wasn't seeing something that made me go, oh, I can do that. It was, I got very close ultimately. I became very close with the person who wrote Kennedy's Children, because I ended up acting in a couple of his other plays. And and he was doing he was teaching playwriting at a place called the Corner Loft Studios in New York. And I had contacted him, and we were going to just go grab a coffee. And he said, well, why don't you sit in on the class, and then afterwards we'll go out and we'll get a coffee. And I said, great. So I did. I sat in on the class, and by the end of the class, I was like, oh, I think I have at least one play in me. And that's how it started for me.
I I didn't. I have started this long running joke with my playwriting mentor, where we refer to me as the accidental playwright, because my stuff wasn't meant for other people, and now suddenly it's getting shared. So I don't know that I ever became a playwright, that I was doing that on purpose. What I love doing is storytelling, and I did that early on as an actor, and then moved into directing, and that's really my primary outlet now. And I teach, so I'm constantly seeing people evolve into their own autonomy in storytelling, and it's really lovely.
My aunt. It's about my aunt. My aunt, she's a really she really is quite a remarkable person, and she was always very nurturing and nourishing for all of us kids, and of course each and every one of us had our issues growing up, but we were completely unaware of the different things that were going on in our different homes. I didn't come to find out until I was an adult, just, what she had experienced from childhood on. And so we would just talk a lot throughout the years. And then one day she said, I would really kind of like it if you would consider telling my story. And I said, well, I don't write. I don't write books or stories, but I could maybe turn it into a play. I could maybe do that. And so she said, oh, that would be cool. So I did. So I wrote the play to tell her story.
I think that it could. It's after the fact, so it's not in the actual moment that it's happening. But I think that opportunity to answer any questions people have, or to talk through how it came about, I think that is sort of giving us a little piece of that actual theatrical experience.
Well, I don't like to guarantee things, in relation to other people's experiences. I love it because I love my aunt, and also because she has just always been, like I said, she was somebody who, regardless of whatever she may have been experiencing in her own life, she made it her, she just always, her whole thing was to make absolutely sure that, to the best of her abilities, she could provide for the kids. That she could create safe places for the kids, so the kids always knew that they were safe with her at the very least. Mm-hmm. And again, coming to discover just how much she had to deal with, it was amazing to me in hindsight, because you never saw her in any other light than this glorious sunshiny light. She was always smiling, always laughing, she just radiated. She was luminous always, and humor, tons of humor all the time. So that when in fact, I don't know if I shared this with you, but what because the play was done before, and I had a young man come up to me after he saw the show. And in fact, there were different people throughout, who would come up and say, oh, it was so wonderful to listen to this woman who shared so many horrible things. but she was always smiling. She was always laughing. She was always just filled with love and humanity. And she was kind and caring and generous and all of these things. And this one young man came up and he goes, it was like I just spent an hour listening to the sun talk about darkness. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And that is what I hope everyone takes away from it.
That's a really hard question to say one thing. I feel like all the other things will be mad at me. Um, I think that for me, theater is sort of my spiritual practice. I'm not a religious person. I'm not someone who has sort of that spiritual guide in her life, but theater is the place where I feel like we can gather toward mutual purpose. And I love that feeling of being with a group of people who are all genuinely equally invested in creating something lovely, to share a story, to move an audience, to whatever it is. But that shared purpose is really powerful to me.
It's about, it's like everyone gets together and shares their humanity. It's an opportunity to share literal humanity. And also it gives, for me anyway, it affords an opportunity to care about people you might not otherwise. Do you know? You are really giving people an opportunity to observe others that they might not otherwise be interested in. Give them an opportunity to learn something about other people in the world, other types of people in the world. But it really gives people an opportunity to care and to connect emotionally, to connect with even their own humanity. One of the things that I've always loved the most about acting, and it's the reason why actors feel so naked on stage, is because in life, sadly, we learn from a very, 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 very early age to hide our humanness. And that's the thing that's required of you as an actor, is to expose your humanness, to be open and honest about your humanness. And so it's never surprising to me when people say, I feel so naked. And it's like, well, it's not surprising, because you're being asked to reveal what you've been taught to hide your entire life. And so for me, it's about that. It's a connecting with each other, with our own and each other's humanness. And I just love it.